If you're ready to harness the power of your communications data, blast off with Nylas today.
All right. Happy Friday, Ram.
Happy Friday, Ash.
All right. So today we're here to talk all about webhooks once again. This time you've got some really cool sort of upcoming feature preview to show off from our Node SDK. So without stealing any more of your thunder, why don't you kind of talk us through what you want to show us today?
Yeah, let's first take a look, and I'll kind of start sharing my screen in a bit. But we're going to first take a look at a feature in the Node SDK. So it's going to be in the upcoming version. So it's a beta version that we're using today. And it really just allows you to start working with and understanding how to use webhooks with Nylas. So what are the webhooks coming to you and what you can start doing with them. So it's really a low code or no code approach to setting up webhooks and seeing what information comes back. So we'll take a look at that first, and then we're also going to take a look at our Nylas CLI. So this is also a feature that's available today in our Nylas CLI, where you can essentially just start listening for webhooks for any one of your applications, any one of your Nylas applications.
Cool. And super briefly, just as a quick primer, if you remember from perhaps previous web streams or live streams that we've done, webhooks are essentially that, don't call us, we'll call you model. So you can register to let us know where to call your application and let you know when there are updates. The alternative, of course, might be something like, for example, polling, where your application has to frequently reach out to us just to see if there's any changes. So webhooks are a nice, smart way to solve for that. So that's the kind of stuff that we're going to be looking at. Is just some tooling around, okay, cool. If we think webhooks are great, and they are, then how do we get them set up and so we can work with them in our code?
Yeah, so let me start sharing my screen, and we can jump into some code and just kind of look at how this actually looks. So there's not much code involved, and as well, just what does the output look like? So let me share my screen. And let's share this screen. Put this over here. Okay. So, this is all the code that's really needed to get started with using or setting up a webhook tunnel. And the idea behind this is once you set up this webhook tunnel, so I'll kind of go through it line by line. First, we just kind of require our environment variables. So you want to bring in your environment variables for your application. So in this case, this can be your client ID and your client secret. And then from there, we're just going to bring in Nylas. And with Nylas, we're going to bring in a few more things. And the main thing that we're looking at is how can we actually open a webhook tunnel? So we're going to import that service. So this is a utility. And what it actually does is it registers, or it first subscribes to webhooks, and it registers and listens to all webhook events coming into your application. So this does it for you automatically. And from line 6 to 9, all we're doing is setting up the Nylas client. So you would do this with any Nylas application. And we're going to use the Nylas client where we pass it into the webhook tunnel. So in this try catch, starting on line 11, what we're doing is we're just opening up the webhook tunnel. We're passing in the Nylas client, and we also pass in a configuration. And in this configuration, we can pass in multiple properties. And the one thing we're going to set up is just on message. So anytime we receive a message, we just want to console log out what that data looks like. And the reason I wrap this in a then is because Open Webhook Tunnel is a async function. So it passes back a promise. So if it's successfully called, or if the webhook tunnel is successfully created, we just want to have a console log sent out that, okay, the webhook tunnel is active.
Pretty cool. And so for people that are in async and await land using those keywords instead, you can imagine that you might structure this as a couple of lines of code instead. But anywhere we have async and await available, we can always use promises with the .then chaining, like what Ram is showing us here.
Yeah, so let's try this out in the actual terminal. So I'm just going to start the code. I'm going to do npm start. And this is going to start listening for any events happening within the Nylas application. And you just saw a large amount of events that actually came through. And what this is since the webhook tunnel was created, it's created as soon as I called npm start, I've actually gone in the background and updated some of my emails. So I've updated an email, or I favorited an email, and that would fire the message updated event. So this is what the webhook data would look like when a message is being updated. So the webhook tunnel actually registers for all possible webhooks, and it's actually sending you all the information as a steady stream, or a stream of information that you can start looking at and start understanding, what do webhooks look like? Are they actually working? Are they firing for the specific events or communication events that I expect them to fire for?
Really cool. And I think in this case, you've got, again, just enough information to work on from the webhook objects being passed. So from there, you can imagine that you might take different aspects of this. Most likely, I think it's in this case, since we're talking about a message having been updated, we're probably going to look at that thread ID, I would assume. But there's plenty of other information there for you to go on. And so if your application finds something that it wants to do something with, you can take those IDs, make calls back to Nylas, and get the information that you need.
Yeah, this is a good point that you made, where you can really decide what you want to do with the information. You don't have to kind of jump on every webhook event. You can decide, oh, this is useful for me, or this is something that I can look into, and you can do that programmatically.
So that's really cool. I just maybe, kind of thinking back into the code that you showed us there just briefly, the just getting started with webhooks with this, again, this is a beta feature in our Node.js SDK on version 7. But either way, just you're kind of thinking through like how simple it is to get started with webhooks here. This makes it super fun. Most of the time, we've showed different other kinds of tools that you can use to do it, but I think there's something nice about being able to do it just in a local project. It just all inside, self-contained in the Node code itself.
Yeah, and since Ash, you mentioned this is a beta feature, one thing we can also take a look at now is just, let's take a look at our Nylas CLI. So this is available in our Nylas CLI today. It's not a beta feature, and you can just start using it right away. So I'm just going to jump out of the terminal, and I'm going to go over here, and we're just going to kind of type in Nylas webhook tunnel and -- print. And when you install the Nylas CLI, you'll have to initialize it with a specific client ID and client secret. So you'll have to go through the authentication process. But what happens here is you're essentially doing the same thing, where you can start listening for different message events. So this is very similar to what we did in Node. Now we're just using the Nylas CLI so that we can start listening for events that are coming through. And this is very similar to what we saw in the actual terminal when we created it through Node. When we created the webhook tunnel in Node, we were able to see a steady stream of events being passed to us. And it's the same thing using the Nylas webhook, the Nylas CLI, to create a webhook tunnel.
That's really nice and simple. So pretty cool stuff, right? I think here, like, we're already looking at just a couple of really nice options to handle this stuff, to handle webhooks locally. On one front, pretty soon you'll be able to do it in Node.js with our SDK. You can already do it today with our CLI. We have some other actual videos that we've shown on the live stream in the past, right, to show other ways to handle webhooks with Nylas as well.
Yeah, so I will try to share the code sample that I kind of walked through today on our Nylas samples organization. So we have all kinds of samples of using Nylas, trying out Nylas, and how you can connect with different communication data for your users, and as well how you can use different tools to understand and play around with webhooks.
Yeah,
so definitely take a look at our Nylas -samples organization.
Awesome. And let's also highlight the YouTube channel, where all of these live streams go to live after they are live streamed. If you go into this channel, and so it's youtube.com/c/Nylas. And if you go there and you're looking at our playlist, we call this little live stream we do Coding with Nylas. And there's a playlist there that's growing. We do a couple of these a week, so there's lots of stuff in there. But if you search for webhooks, there's probably another live stream or two that we've recorded that'll have some other information of cool things you can do with webhooks, or how to get set up with webhooks, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely go ahead and check it out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the live stream. So happy
Cool.
Friday, everyone.
All right, happy Friday, Ram. Love it. Thanks for showing us some really cool stuff and upcoming features about how to work with webhooks and our Node.js SDK.
Cool. All right. See you.
See you.